So heading into the 2023 NHL Entry Draft, we had ourselves a pretty good conversation going about when it comes to the Vancouver Canucks and their 11th overall pick. Now we know they inevitably used that pick to draft Tom Willander, a pick that I actually like a lot more now than I did back when it was initially made. Not that I disliked it back at the time, it's just seeing more of him and getting more familiar with his game, his personality, what it is that he projects to be able to becoming. I like it a lot more, based off of what we've seen. But when it comes to that draft pick, there was a pretty big conversation going amongst Vancouver media and analysts at the time as to whether or not the Canucks would trade down or trade up. There was an idea floating around that said that Vancouver really liked Leo Carlsson and they might trade up to get him. There were also a few ideas saying that the Canucks did not have a second-round pick, and thus if they traded down somewhere in the middle of the first round, they might be able to accrue one of those. However, they ended up staying at 11, they drafted Tom Willander, and the rest is history, right? Well, it turns out we actually have ourselves a few insider pieces of information, one of which actually comes to us in the form of a video posted on the Canucks Twitter account, and the other comes to us from a few inside sources on the scouting side of things, as to whether or not the Canucks really did have an opportunity to trade down, and with whom. Let's talk about that and more, and how it relates to the Buffalo Sabres in this video. But before we get underway with that, I wanted to give a big shout out to today's sponsor. We all know that the world today is changing fast, and sometimes we could use some help staying on track. Today's video is sponsored by Neuro. They create gum and mints to energize, calm, and focus whenever you need it. It's developed by former athletes training at the highest level who didn't want to take mysterious supplements or energy drinks. Instead of something sugary and ineffective, they wanted to create clean, balanced energy that could be taken anywhere, anytime. The result? 3 different gum and mint products from Neuro. There's the Energy and Focus formula, formulated to sustain mental endurance and focus. Their Calm and Clarity formula, developed to optimize composure and clarity of mind. And their Health and Vitality formula, infused with immune-boosting vitamins to help strengthen and support your body. Neuro's gone through dozens of tests to ensure each gum and mint they make delivers on their promise of getting you in the right state at the right time. You're in luck, because LEGO Rocks 99 audience members will get 30% off their order when they use my link. Head over to tryneurogum.com/LEGO. That's tryneurogum.com/LEGO to get 30% off your order and enjoy energy, calm, and focus whenever you need it. So as we said, the video in question comes to us from the Vancouver Canucks official Twitter page. It's the all-access 2023 draft video, and within it, it's a bunch of the Canucks executives at the draft. They've got microphones on, you could hear what it is they're saying. The video is heavily edited, so I will go out there and give props to the Canucks social media staff because y'all are making some really great content, and I think if I have the right person in mind, or the right people in mind who are in charge of making videos like these, I think you may know who you are, especially if you're actually watching this video that I'm making right here. Good job. Y'all are doing some really good work. But aside from that, we're going to go over on to Mike Gold's article on Canucks Army from yesterday, talking about this particular video, because what Gold does is he transcribes some of the things that happen in this Canucks Draft Access video, which makes it easier for me to screenshot and put it on the screen so we could just kind of look at it all together. So, in the video that one was posted onto Twitter, you had yourselves Patrik Allvin asking Todd Hardy, Vancouver's Director of Amateur Scouting, for his opinion on moving down at the 11th overall pick. At this point in the video, you could see the St. Louis Blues making the Dalibor Dvorsky pick, and Allvin says, let's just see what this pick is. Afterwards, you had yourselves Derek Clancy telling Patrik Allvin, I mean, you go 2 more back, I hope he's there. I don't think that he's there. 2 spots back at the Vancouver Canucks 11th overall pick was the Buffalo Sabres 13th overall pick, that in which was used to draft Zach Benson. With this idea in mind, it's apparent that the Vancouver Canucks and the Buffalo Sabres may have had some sort of a conversation or 2 or maybe 3 discussing the idea of swapping 11 and 13. Immediately after, Derek Clancy is saying, I hope that our player is there at 13, but I don't think that he's gonna be there. Now, the Canucks ended up taking Tom Willander, and that in which was a player that, based off of the other videos they had, it's apparent the Canucks staff really, really liked. And based off of how they've talked about this guy, he's the guy that they wanted, they were really high on him, etc., etc., it's very apparent that their guy the entire time at 11 was Tom Willander. And it's apparent that from the Canucks' POV, if they traded down to 13, they might not have actually had a chance to draft him. Their opinion was that if they traded down to 13, Buffalo went up to 11, and then Arizona picked at 12, Tom Willander might not have been available when the Canucks were drafting at 13 should they have made that trade down. There was another video the Canucks posted of their interview with Willander, and afterwards you could see Cammy Granato stand up and say, yeah, that guy's a beauty. Which kind of indicates, yeah, there was a really high amount of praise going around for this guy internally when he wasn't in the room when they were doing their own evaluations. We also had ourselves the guys from EP Ringside who had themselves a graphic saying this: the prices were astronomical. Teams weren't even listening on what we were offering, an NHL scout said about trying to move up at the 2023 draft. Another team was asked about the Vancouver Canucks and trying to trade up to that 11th overall pick, and they said we didn't even bother. The Canucks wanted to make that pick. And so with this idea in mind, the Vancouver Canucks may have had themselves an opportunity to trade down to get the 13th overall pick from Buffalo, but they really wanted Willander, and their assessment was that Willander would not have been available at 13. I saw a lot of people saying immediately after, why did they draft him at 11? He should have been available later on. They could have had themselves a second-round pick if they traded down and maybe tried to get Willander later. But it's apparent they were very, very high on this guy, so much to the point that they didn't want to risk losing him if it meant getting another second in return. As for Buffalo, we had ourselves that 13th overall pick inevitably used to draft Zach Benson. We like this pick a lot, everybody seems to think it was a steal, but I have seen some rumblings around here from Sabres fans saying that they might have actually wanted Willander. Second right-handed defenseman taken in the draft, could have been a good shutdown guy to play behind Owen Power and Rasmus Dahlin. Maybe play alongside of one of those guys, who knows? Then there was the idea that said, okay, maybe Arizona would have taken Willander because they already drafted Simashev earlier in the draft, so if they drafted Simashev and then Willander, that would have been a really solid pairing down the line. And the Canucks might have had it in their thought process that that would have been the outcome. Either Buffalo or Arizona would have taken this guy. They didn't want to risk losing him, so they didn't make the trade down. Assuming that does happen though, let's say Buffalo trades up to 11th, maybe they take Willander with the 11th overall pick, or maybe he falls to 12 and Simashev gets a new line mate in the Swede. Who do the Vancouver Canucks take at 13 if Willander is not on the board? My money is on Zach Benson because everybody seems to have acknowledged how much of a steal that pick was at 13th overall, and for the Vancouver Canucks, taking the local kid seems like the easy slam dunk choice. But of course, with this new regime, who really knows where they would have gone? They might have just drafted another Swede for all I know. If they really wanted to stick with the right-handed defenseman, they might have just drafted Axel Sandin Pellikka. Who really knows? I've said this entire time I didn't think that he would have been the proper fit for Vancouver because you don't need too many offensive defensemen, especially when you already have Hughes and Hronek. But that would have been an interesting sort of proposition there. Imagine if the Vancouver Canucks went from Tom Willander to Axel Sandin Pellikka alongside of a second-round pick somewhere in the draft. The Sabres had 2 second-round picks, their own, which they used to draft Maxim Strubak, as well as the pick they got in the Rasmus Ristolainen trade from Philadelphia. They used that pick to select Anton Wahlberg. 2 seconds, Vancouver might have had an opportunity to get one of them, and if you take a look at who was available at that spot, let's say 39th overall, that Buffalo Sabres pick, the player that went right after was the Washington Capitals' Andrew Crystal. So let's say the Vancouver Canucks go best case scenario, they don't draft Tom Willander, they move down to 13, they maybe get themselves that second round pick at the start of the second, and instead of coming away with Tom Willander, they come away with Benson and Crystal, or they get Axel Sandin Pellikka and Crystal. When you lay it out like that, it sounds really attractive to me. Like, of course, I like Tom Willander, but I like Zach Benson a lot too, and I like Andrew Crystal a bunch as well, so yeah, I don't know, man. Patrick Allvin, depending on what the Buffalo Sabres could have given Vancouver to move up from 13 to 11, I'm really starting to feel that depending on the assets involved, the Vancouver Canucks might have made themselves the wrong choice by staying at 11 and drafting Willander. Oh, I'm not going to say that 100% with my heart's in it because I don't want to get crucified. But either way, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What are your opinions about the Vancouver Canucks potentially trading down to 13? They had an opportunity to do so with Buffalo. The phones were ringing. The GMs were talking. It's on the video on Twitter. Who do you think the Canucks could have gotten if they drafted 13th instead of 11th, assuming Tom Willander wasn't there? And if they got themselves another second, who do you think they should have drafted with that pick instead? Sabres fans, what are your thoughts on this idea? Canucks fans, what are your thoughts on how everything went down? Let me know your opinions in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.